One bad year doesn't define your entire career's legacy. If you are moving forward with... I could have begun this video by talking about the individual mindset, and we'll get to that later in the video. But if business is the goal, if large growth is the goal, you have to know how to run a team. The biggest mistake I ever made in my career was creating a family culture within the organization that made team members lose, that created an energy of love within the organization, but it wasn't a growth-oriented environment. Right step that I took early on in my career is switching out of being a family culture-oriented environment into being a sports team-oriented environment. Now, what I mean by that is what I will explain going forward. But every business that's grown has grown because of this mentality. One of the biggest career skills I learned was the way to hire correctly. The rule is that you need to have clarity when it comes to the position you want to hire for. But at the same time, in the long term, you need all your teammates to fit into a similar kind of vibe. What we decided across the organizations was based on sports. My favorite sports person is Virat Kohli. And the core of his being is optimism, positive thinking, going for it. In the age where optimism sometimes is criticized as being toxic positivity, I actually think that the growth of most organizations happens because of this sense of optimism that runs throughout the organization. That's pillar number one when it comes to sports mentality. Create positivity in the environment through teammates. Now, I understand not everyone wants to be a business professional in the long term. If you're a student or if you're targeting a corporate career, I assure you this one skill, being kind of almost fakely optimistic, can get you a better job, can get you that promotion, can actually help you move forward, because the first step when it comes to growth is actually looking at a situation from a solution-oriented mindset and looking at a long-term phase as an opportunity for growth, no matter how bad things get. Next, keep earning your place. Even if you're a leader, even if you're a veteran, the game is to constantly ensure that you're adding value to the team by growing on an individual level, by challenging yourself at every phase of your career. That's the kind of culture you want to set in an organizational infrastructure as well. Do not think that your past wins qualify you to still get a place in the starting 11 of a team. If you want to just sustain your career, you've still got to grow. But if you want to grow your career, you have to go beyond the improvements you made in the previous years as well. A great time period to do this is through your 20s, because your physical energy levels are through the roof. Perceive your career like an intellectual athlete's career. Here, your tool isn't your body, your tool is your mind, but you've got to train it, you've got to refuel it, and you've got to soak up knowledge from everyone that you can soak it up from. Think of almost any team that won a World Cup or a really iconic championship. It's always been a combination of experience and youth. And in an era where Gen Zs constantly get criticized for their professional prowess, I think that it's an evergreen problem. We have the same narrative that, hey, the younger generation doesn't know what they're doing. But the truth is that the most profitable, most successful teams are always a combination of fantastic, sprightly young ideas mixed with the stability of experience. You have to have a long range when it comes to your age of your team members. If the team's too young, you'll be very creative and very energetic, but slightly unstable. And if the team is too old, you are not going to figure out how to keep your audience or your customer entertained. Every great team is a combination of youth with experience. The next point is what I call formation changes or role changes. We see this in football and cricket, where a young athlete may not be able to perform to the best of their abilities, but a coach or a captain comes into their story and shifts their batting position or shifts where they play on the football pitch, and then their career takes off. For young, hardworking, promising professionals, very often it's a mentor or it's the presence of great leadership that actually shapes up their career in the long term. People need to be slightly experimental, especially when they're young or when they're old and they're getting bored of their old role. Time causes change, and this particular lesson from the world of sports applies in every single professional environment to keep your work more entertaining as well as to increase the output for the team overall. If you're a young professional, go seek inputs, and if you're an older professional, help the young professionals find their new position if you feel that they're not living up to their potential. Final and most important aspect of having a sports-based mentality in your professional organization, the skill of game taping. This is what a lot of high potential athletes use to get better throughout the course of their careers. Remember that as you keep moving forward with your inner sense of relentlessness, as you keep executing upon tasks, as you keep growing your career, you're going to make mistakes. Mistakes of different degrees. Some very large mistakes that can threaten your whole career, but lots of tiny mistakes every single month. The game plan is to go about game taping. Athletes view their own footage to see where they made mistakes, where their scope of improvement lies, because in the long term, your career legacy is defined by what you did over the course of 10 to 20 years, not by that one bad year, and definitely not by that one bad mistake you will make every single month. Review all your mistakes. Just ensure you don't repeat them in the long term. Your relentlessness will help itself through game taping. The skill of game taping is something every professional can learn about from the world of athletes. When a high potential athlete wants to improve in the long term, wants to create an everlasting legacy, he gets into a habit of reviewing their actual games and the mistakes they made, as well as their own positives. In the process of being relentless, you are going to make mistakes. Sometimes your mistakes will be career threatening, but you need to have protocols right after you make mistakes. Group discussions, reviewing what went wrong, and ensuring you don't repeat the mistake going forward. That's all that game taping is. Whether it's a huge mistake or a tiny mistake, your protocol has to be to remain stoic, to review what happened, and understand that one bad year doesn't define your entire career's legacy. If you are moving forward with relentlessness, you will make mistakes every single month because you improve through your mistakes. Remember, good times don't teach you much, but your bad times will be your life-changing career lessons. Have a long-term vision and embrace your own mistakes without any guilt. Just don't repeat them again.